Good afternoon. We have a very, very large group in our audience today, and we have some very special young people. I'm going to call on you in a minute, okay? I know, you look really cute. And that would be our third grade class from Aspen Elementary that's going to talk about Sunset City. It's a pretty special presentation. But first of all, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, Rhonda.
Butler,
Here.
Circus,
Here.
Matson,
Here.
Shank. Good.
Here.
First presentation this evening is because we have special young people here. And I was so impressed with their presentation and all their hard work. I invited them to come to our town council. And let me tell you, these kids know how to run a town council. They've had elections. I'm not going to steal the thunder. So, okay, you ready to get started? Kimmy, are you starting, or who's Kimmy?
Take it away.
Look, come on. Do you want to get behind a mic because you're on TV?
Right up there.
Yeah, we're going to get you a mic.
Right here you can be on a microphone.
You need something.
Yes.
We might not be able to see him on TV back there.
You can sit down there and use this mic.
Oh, right here.
You can come right over here.
Oh, can he use this? 'Cause
Yes.
He's liking it.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Luke Timborough, and I'm the mayor pro tem of Sunset City. Town councils, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Alana Asley and I am a town council member. Hi, my name is Burton Pendarvis and I'm another town council member.
And we have two that are missing. Who's there
Yeah,
another
we've
one?
got-
Oh, yeah, here.
Charlie Asher, the real mayor, is out of town. Josie Cole is our town manager and she is also out of town.
It's a lot like our council.
Hi, I'm Miles Clifford, the lawyer. Please take your places.
This is great.
Scoot down this way. Mom. Hey, nice and loud, please.
This little journey began with a book at which Miss Simon decided to look. It told of children making a town using their imaginations that with things they had found.
Well, if they could do it, so could we.
And that is how we started this community.
It took a lot of hard work and a lot of might, but truly I think we got it right.
We figured out things all towns need. But more than that, we planted a seed.
We talked to each other, we listened with care, we worked with each other, we tried to be fair. Our insurance and government took off like a shot, who we should vote for and who we should not.
And mayor, town council, and how we make laws. We learned civil liberties and justice for all. Then came the writing our stories of old, of the 1800s and settlers we told. Then onto the maps with an aerial view.
It's hard to believe that this project is through.
We hope you enjoy what you see on the screen.
We love our community and all that it means.
There you go.
When I think about Sunset City, and it has really pushed us, not like in a bad way, good way.
One more thing I learned about Sunset City is teamwork. How to use teamwork to build something or create something.
We started by getting a piece of paper and sketching the footprint of all our buildings.
Filled squares, then we got sand, we did the pavements, then we
The audio here, because that's
Okay.
not working for me.
No problem.
Battery is under a quarter full.
Oh.
These are real life council problems, guys.
Yeah. Actually, Rhonda, if I'm gonna see you here.
See what happens.
Yep, this will work.
Teamwork. How to use teamwork to build something or create something.
Okay, we're gonna start from the beginning, folks.
What I think about Sunset City, and it has really pushed us, not like in a bad way, a good way.
Ooh, one more thing I learned about Sunset City is teamwork. How to use teamwork to build something or create something.
We started by getting a piece of paper and sketching the footprint of all our buildings.
So with squares, then we got sand, we did the pavements, then we painted the roads and did all that. And then we measured at the area of our blocks. Then we wrote the history of Sunset City.
And we're gonna have an election.
I learned area and how to work as a community.
That everyone has a part in the community.
Well, I learned that you can almost build anything.
When I'm older, if I become a builder, then I know how to build houses.
I built the schools.
I learned that it is extremely hard. Writing about it, making the map for it.
In the community, there are schools, animal shelters, fire department, hospital.
You get to work with your friends. We started this in the beginning of the year, basically. Well, at that project in the room, and it really pushed us, and I made friends talking, and then so we made another one, and I got more friends.
So how people work together is they, communicate a lot. They call each other, they check in, they agree with each other first before they start making their own decisions.
That the government is important because they help make the laws.
Communities need to have farms, and communities also need to have water, they need to have schools, they need to have banks. Farmers provide food, blacksmiths provide horseshoes so then you can ride. I learned different forms of area that I didn't know already, like how to measure in square feet or square inches. And I learned how to build a three-dimensional building out of an empty toothpaste box or something.
I learned that communities, they don't fight.
I built a spa so parents could relax because sometimes their kids stress them out.
I learned that communities, they play together and they work together and they live together.
The most challenging thing was building the buildings. The hardest part of the project was that I couldn't find any materials. For example, I used a cardboard and a toilet paper roll.
Measuring was the hardest thing.
The most challenging part was making it 6 inches.
Yeah, the most challenging thing was the writing.
I think that writing the story was the hardest part of the project. Mine was submit.
The most challenging part for me was making time to build all the buildings.
I think the most challenging thing was building the houses because my houses were made out of wood, so I had to cut them, use a wood cutter thing.
It was challenging getting the walls straight and make sure they're the same size.
I liked the Sunset City because it had you got to build houses.
The most fun part was building the roads.
My favorite part was figuring about the block and measuring.
My favorite part was probably building the structures.
My favorite part is when we were painting our blocks.
My favorite part was getting to build buildings.
The most fun thing was probably making it because it got me together with my family and we all worked together to make the buildings. If I could change some of Snowmass, I'd want the Snowmass Rec Center to be a little bigger and have more stuff.
Having people pick up their trash after themselves.
I'd probably change the environment to make no trash being there so climate change wouldn't happen.
Only thing I will change, I will put more restaurants.
Maybe they can make the electric cars cheaper so we don't have any pollution in our air.
Yeah, I would use solar power on cars.
Some hotels are free, so the homeless people can go stay there.
I would also make the change of making it illegal to cut down trees.
Make sure the wall went around the whole entire city and it was bulletproof.
I'm running for the mayor of Sunset City.
If I was the mayor, I would say I'd build a mine.
And then we're gonna vote for mayor and town council.
All of the stuff that would be in the school border, but as a town.
I am also going to try to have a lot of jobs so people have more choices of what to be.
The mayor has to be elected and the council, they don't just get chosen by the last one. You have to be elected by the citizens, and that's why citizens are the most important.
I'll try to make things for all cultures so it would be fair for everyone that wants to move into Sunset City.
I think Sunset City was a really good idea. So when you grow up, you'll have a plan for your future and what you're gonna do. It was nice to have someone to talk to about your block. And I think you should do it next year.
I think you should do this project next year so they will have a chance to experience a community and learn how a community works.
The story of Isabel Hart Pearl, 1846. Chapter 1 day, April 2nd, me, Dawn Pearl, age 18, from Pennsylvania, was going to beautiful Colorado. I was in
My name was Dan Jaden. On a journey to Colorado, I packed up my bag and got in.
Once there was a girl named Isabella. She lived in Boston and she had a Haley. And we are trying to get away from Boston to move to the west. I hopped.
In November of 1818, I, Jacob Ladder, set off to find a new land. At the time, it was pouring rain.
I, Eska Johnson, who was 15 years old and was out exploring on my wagon back to the 13 colonies.
We are having a crisis. He said we will leave our homes and build a new town, but somehow we finished packing our bags at 3:58. But oh no, the train whistle blew. So they started. I was in my horse-powered wagon going to the Colorado,
Which was far from home.
I quickly got some food and clothes and stuffed it into my knapsack.
I packed up my bag and got in my wagon. My dad and my brother. It was a long ride. He got more and more tired.
He was panicking for a second, then he found a cave.
I woke up on my birthday to some sort of rustling in the bushes. Hello, I said.
One day I found wood and I could build a house. He used the rock to sharpen the stick, so he...
Oh no, we have to go. We went right away to our lean-to, but we
We got there too late.
Here by horse to find a land filled with Indians in the state. Sophia, London.
Then I could get my bow and arrow.
Sunset City, but one night I got robbed by some guys who were wanted, so I went to find them. I only had 2 chances. There to jump out of the fire and get a little burn or die. So I jumped as high and as far.
We had our tents in our knapsacks. We walked past a set of trees and thought it was a perfect place to camp for the night. As it got dark
That evening, I started construction on my cabin, but unfortunately I didn't finish, so I had to sleep in my tent.
We started building a cabin. It took us 2 weeks to build the cabin.
Of course, I built a mansion in the middle of the town, and I named it Sunset City.
He was really rich, so he hired 560 workers to build a city. 5 years later,
We were in the Wild West. People were way less polite there. There were people getting thrown out of saloons. Me and August walked past as if we didn't care, but we really did. We had
Sophia and the Indians became friends.
And our town exists because there are great schools. At least we knew there were.
Zach Packer died in 1946, but Sunset City was still there. The first building was...
And that night I saw this beautiful sunset, so I decided to call it Sunset City.
Now, I'll,
Now I would like to invite Marky Butler to come cut the ribbon for Sunset.
yep. But I'm going to need some help from my Mayor Pro Tem.
What's important to remember about these is that they're sensitive electronic devices, so treat these like you would your smartphone. Okay, they don't like to be wet, they don't like to be dropped, stepped on, things like that. Okay? It's also important that
Did y'all come up and take a look at this? Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to start. Okay. It's on. Does anyone have any questions?
Why is the fun house the biggest structure?
Who made the fun house? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem. Circus, this is your new assignment.
I made it big so there could be a lot of activities in there, like a whole bunch of activities.
What would be your favorite activity?
The gym.
The gym. What building did you do?
This one?
And that's a beautiful house. You had to do all the wood, didn't you?
My mom did the blood.
Okay, who else wants to talk about their little town?
Hi. I built the mansion, but now it's a hotel, the Apple Store, and an animal shelter.
An Apple Store?
Uh-huh.
What building did you do?
I did the airport and the bank.
Airport and the bank. How about that one? So you take all the money home. Oh, by the way, the kids asked me how much I made as mayor. 5 cents. I'm not going to get rich soon. But one of them, when they wrote the thank you note, suggested I get a raise. We all get a raise on town council. But anyway, which one do you do?
What is it, Mason?
It's arcade, candy store, and Starbucks.
Secret? Starbucks?
Oh, all about food. Which one did you do?
I did the city hall.
City Hall.
You live in, basically. I'm not sure if you live in it, but pretty close.
That's
Tell
where.
them what's on top of the city hall.
Ninjas, basically. I don't know why, because I had no people, so I just did ninjas. But I also have a gas station and a bus station with the bus stops around the city. One right there, one right there. And there's two more around there.
I did the neighborhood.
What's all in the name?
There's an ice cream store, a dog park, bus stop. There's a condo, and yeah.
It's got.
And an ice rink, yeah.
That's right. I thought it was a little pool, but it's an ice rink.
I built the one with the spa and the house and the apartment with Harry Potter on top of it.
I'm going to move and get behind these kids so you can all see them. Okay. Okay, we have a member of town council here. What did you build?
I built the block with the Target outlet, the library, the glasses store, 2 houses, a McDonald's, and a Wendy's.
Competition, huh?
No.
No. And what did you, dear?
I did the jungle gym and the pool house and the zip line right next to the fun house.
I think you ought to be on our Parks and Recreation Committee. We ought to get some youth involved.
I did the Sunset City Market and the trampoline center and a donut shop.
Man, we get the food in here, right? And what?
I did the schools. The tiny one is the elementary, and the medium-sized one is the middle school, and the blue top one is the high school.
Okay, who designed the roads? All did. How did you all agree?
So we connected the road, like we made our roads in specific ways together so we could make sure that they all connected.
How fun. Yeah.
I like to do Miss Simon's block. She did the Ike's title Achillium.
We had a student that started the project and he moved in January, and one of the things he wanted was an aerial view aquarium. So it's called the Ike's Title Open Air Aquarium, named after my student that moved.
How cool. That is cool. Oh, and I see something else.
Was in the show. That was in the show, like the glazing.
Yeah, this is the new statue coming into Snowmass Village right here.
So what my students don't know is that little mini sculpture that I made is actually going to be a real big sculpture right out here at the roundabout.
Yeah.
I didn't make it, guys. I just made a little tiny miniature.
Oh, she has secrets. Teachers have secrets. Yes, Clint.
I wonder if these guys could tell us how governments pay for this stuff. How do governments pay to build these buildings? They don't.
Guys, where does the money?
What's it start with? Taxes.
That's how.
What other questions do we have of these young?
How
Yeah,
long did
John.
it take to build?
Oh.
We did this over 9 months.
Months.
histories are beautiful. Did I hear so? John, Mr. Dresser, our town attorney, has a question. So be ready, attorney.
It's not really a question, it's a compliment to all of the planners and the council people for obviously complying with your zoning code and making a very beautiful and properly sized community without high rises and skyscrapers. My question is, did anybody propose a skyscraper? Okay. Good job, good lawyering. Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're pretty much in size with the rest of them, so it's all.
Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
And also, who wants to read the stories?
Could I say one thing before we conclude? I want to thank Barry Stevenson. Barry, will you stand up for just a sec? If it wasn't for Barry, we wouldn't have that amazing video.
Do you want to, now Kimmy lives here in Snowmass Village.
Well, I actually live in Basalt, but my sister right
Yeah,
there
Karen lives right over here.
village and my parents.
Yes, Karen's one of my neighbors, and so is Kimmy's parents and Karen's parents. So we are so honored to have them here. Kimmy, you want to talk just a little bit about how you got this idea? Because I think it's very important. We need to applaud our teachers. This is an incredible creative project. So
I'm actually pretty loud. So this was, I'm hoping the direction of education goes into project-based learning, because I have never had kids so excited about writing, persevering, teamwork, measuring, the things that they learned in this project. I could not have just taught them the traditional route. So I hope that this is something that's supported. Obviously, you can see the result of it, but I want to applaud my class, because guys, you all did the work. You worked together. Think about where you started this with a blank table and just your imagination. So I want to give you guys a round of applause, and
we have some goodie bags for each one of you.
oh,
Bribe public officials, sir.
oh, that's great.
Everybody's got one, don't worry.
Oh, that's. Does Miss Simon get one? I have like
I'll have Travis. And we'll get some more. Let me know how many.
Okay, did you guys say thank you?
Thank you, kids.
Thank you guys very much for having us out here.
Okay, we're break, take a break, and we'll be right back.
So, will we have time to carry the chair? I think so. Thank you guys for coming. The shuttle actually is going to take us to the chocolate.
Okay.
That's a hard act to go.
Well, good
come up
luck.
to that.
You may be building a firehouse, but maybe the kids ought to design it.
There
huh?
you go.
Let's go. Billy?
Well, thank you for taking the time on your agenda today to listen to us. Basically, the idea, this is a very informal discussion the fire district's having when you didn't get any paperwork. We met with Basalt Council last week. We're going to be meeting with Pitkin County and Garfield next week. Eagle County, thank you. Yeah, Garfield's outside of our area. So basically the idea of what's coming down here, folks, is that 3 years ago, Snowmass was notified our chief was leaving. At that point in time, as the president of the Snowmass Fire District, I was looking around to see what our options were. I approached Mr. Thompson, who is the fire chief down in Basalt, and said, Scott, our borders are right next to each other. What's going on? Is there something we can do with the mindset of RAFTA and the other regionalization things that I had been involved with sitting in this room? Is there something we can do together to reduce administrative issues, but have a leader that knows the valley instead of bringing somebody in brand new out of the area who has no understanding of the heck of the dynamics that is created in this valley? And Scott and I and the Basalt Board and Brian Olson and a bunch of us sat down and said, why don't we try something? Specifically, why don't we try to hire Scott in to be a combined chief for these two districts and see, is there something that we can do together in this regionalization mindset? Because we've always had problems trying to find trainers for the fire guys and gals to be consistent. We've had problems with human resources, and we're just so small that we can't afford to have someone come in and take over that job. But if we can pool our resources together, maybe there is something we can do. So at that point, the boards got together and said, okay, we're willing to try this process, this thinking outside the box in this valley and see what we can do. Well, in those last 3 years, things have gone very well, I think both boards see. And so we're trying to say, what is the next step we need to do? We've talked about consolidation of districts. We've talked about just doing what we're doing and leaving it alone. We're now looking at this, what they call a fire authority. And a bunch of us have done some research on what fire authorities are and how they work, and it really feels like it's the next generation of what we should be moving towards for the protection of the Snowmass and Basalt communities for fire protection, ambulance, and all the services that get piled on to these fire districts. So we've got Scott here, we've got Ed Van Waldron. Walraven. I always goof this one up, as you guys and gals.
You're not the only one.
But anyway, we've morphed recently in about 3 months ago to have an attorney come who's worked in other groups and other areas to help us take this fire authority look. You may all know Shirley Ritter, Shirley was a county commissioner down in Durango, and she first came to help us out and to see what could we do about this consolidation. And we've been hearing 5 years, 7 years, 10 years to make things work. Sometimes they work real well, sometimes they don't. But with this, we're all very pleased, and I'm going to shut up here and let these two chat a bit and let you guys ask questions. But the real idea is that we really want to let the community know what we're after and what we're going towards, because we think, even though we've had our meetings and people can come, they don't get the message. So this is going to help us all get that message out there so that our community folks can ask the questions, figure out what are the upsides and downsides, because we're going to have to go through this exercise with a number of really looking at stuff and saying, where is it the benefits? Scott, I'll let you chat on with board members, and because there's a lot of stuff going on that we want you to know.
The first thing I wanted to kind of explain is the authority model. It's not a new thing, but what Bob Cole from Collins, Cockrell and Cole, he's done nearly every consolidation merger of fire districts in Colorado, and that's why we brought him in. Basalt's used him when we did impact fees, for example, and he was a great resource to us. So we brought him in. He's met with the boards twice. The model of the authority and part of the reasoning behind that is so the two financial districts and the boards stay in place like they are right now. And they would just budget money into the authority. Since I've started, we've strived to operational and administrative efficiencies, and that's pretty much what the goal is here. We don't need a huge administrative staff in both districts. Have one to cover both districts as the authority, and I think that that's what the public is expecting from us, to be efficient. And so that's where we're going with this, and that's what's been successful up until this point. Just to be clear, we're not trying to save money. This is not to cut costs. It'll cost the same, but we think we can make efficiencies out of what we bring in. A lot of people have asked me, oh, this is to save money. It's not to save money. This is to be efficient and put more firefighters and paramedics on the street and less people in the administrative chairs. That's really the bottom line. So kind of turn it back over. I've got a list just so you guys know all the board members. If you want to have conversations with them individually, if there's any what I'm calling whys and why nots toward merger. Up here, of course, Brian, Irene Gressler, Donna Aiken, of course, your police chief, Brian Olson, and then Wolf Gench. And then down in Basalt, it's Ed is the president, Mark Kittle, your building officials on the board there, John Young, who was the first town manager in Snowmass, yeah, a long time ago when I was a kid, Vonda Williams, and Leroy Dureau, who is the past mayor down in Basalt. So very great group of 10 bosses that I have, and we've really put our heads together, and we think that this is the right direction. But we also want to reach out to you because I think you guys get a lot of input from the public that we're not getting, and I think that that's important, at least to me and to the whole group.
Yeah, having gone through in Michigan consolidation of some fire districts, and our outcome was save money. At the end of the day, we saw that because administrative structure, you don't really duplicate. You have one big chief, right? And you consolidate your HR and your finance. Yes. And what I always heard from people was, are they going to close our little fire district here and where the fire trucks? And the answer is no. You're going to keep your services going, but you consolidate, which at the end of the day could potentially save money, but you don't do it to save money. It just kind of could be a byproduct.
Yes.
Because you want to put more people, there's more regs, a lot more regs coming on you guys, so.
Well, and both districts are seeing an increase in calls, so we have to increase our staff, and this is an efficient way of doing that without going back to the voters and asking for more money, because right now, I can't see that they would tolerate that after what they've spent on building a new fire station here.
I would.
Quick question, Scott, in regards to displacing two firehouses at the same time in Basalt and in Snowmass.
That wasn't supposed to happen. I said 5 years ago that this is all going to come to volition at the same time, and it did.
I'm just wondering if is that a smart move, you know? And
we have the same company, the same architect, but
I know
different people working on the projects. Ed and I were talking about that. We consolidated all our construction meetings into 1 day a week. So we spend Wednesday mornings down in Basalt in construction meetings and then come up here. So far it's worked out really well. The Basalt project will be done this fall. It is a very quick compared to up here. So I'm hoping that that kind of takes the pressure off. Just to throw another curveball in this, we have a group of citizens at Soapers Mountain Ranch that want to build a fire station. So they've been coming to the board meetings, and they've raised $800,000 and got a state grant for oil and mineral for $25,000 to get construction-ready documents. So there's a lot of stuff happening.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. How are you guys handling, I know,
The day-to-day stuff's going okay, Tom. It's not really being an issue. The management stuff is what we're trying to share. So we have HR people who are working now to really help the, firefighters and ourselves track things and try to make sure people are in the right area.
That's the part I'm
So it's
assuming.
really, that kind of stuff is working very well from what we've seen. The day-to-day, the calls, service levels don't seem to be a big issue because, when the stuff hits the fan, generally it's in one little community and we can shift people around.
Right.
We're not reducing numbers of folks at all, but we're able to say, hey, Basalt's having a little issue with, highways and stuff. We've got a few people up here, we can send them down and still protect our community here because we're all concerned of when Billy has a heart attack, who's gonna be there? So these guys, administrative folks, are doing, I believe, a fantastic job. And a lot of it is administrative stuff. Fire training officer. How do we do things together without, each of us, playing with their own little marbles? So for the most part, it all works a lot better than maybe some people are thinking because both buildings are down. We've got the equipment, it's rolling stock, and it's not seeming to be an issue. Scott?
Well, I think we've been pretty fortunate at the Valley in regards to, I'm gonna say disasters so far, where we didn't have to call on X amount of communities all to help at once. And I hope it stays that way, of course. And between the intersection, the tunnel that's being built, the firehouse down there, the school, and I don't know how you guys are doing it. Good job, anyway, so.
Did a code call to the high school the other day, and I said, by the time I got through the roundabout,
Right.
got through the Basalt intersection, and then hit one way that we didn't know anything about at the high school, I was exhausted. It was, but
I mean, there's a lot going on, and I applaud you for handling it all at once. And I was wondering if you wanted it to be all at once.
so we didn't plan on that. I think the Basalt moved forward because that tax increase was voted on a year prior. It took us time to get to the place that we could break ground down there because we couldn't afford what we wanted to do initially, so we had to put some time into it. And then, of course, this up here was fast-paced to take advantage of, lower cost. If we waited, it would have been more. So, and the other thing, Tom, just to express to you, we hired an owner's rep that is also working on the Picken County Sheriff's Station. He's been a blessing to us and keeping us on track and doing a lot of work for us. So administratively, we're,
Somebody's dotting your i's and crossing your t's.
yes.
that's
Well, he's
there.
double checking.
Fire guys and gals don't do that.
Yeah.
very
No,
well.
I should hope you have somebody on the professional end
Well,
that's doing it for you, correct?
I've been joking for a long time, so I'm a fire chief that doesn't have time to be a fire chief right now, and David's helping us, so I can be a fire chief because we're going into our critical time now. So,
Well, good job, Joe.
we've left that out, and I need to.
Basically, I don't want to be too redundant on what Bill and Scott said, but when the idea of the shared chief was presented to our board, we discussed it among ourselves and Scott, and we decided that we could support the concept of what was going on. This is, 3 years ago now. At this point, things are progressing where we have to do the next step, and that's what Bill was talking about, the fire authority. And we are here basically to update you in person. Your rumors are abound all over the place in this valley of anything. But we wanted to update you and also get you involved in the process through your feedback. Because we're seeing this from our side of it, from fire department and fire district side of it. But, you see things that we are not seeing. So your feedback is welcome to get through this process. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on, and you touched on it a little bit with operations. From an operations standpoint, this makes great sense. We combine our forces, our resources, and our training, and we can improve on such areas as life safety, fire prevention, EMS services, and firefighting. Now, this will come into view if an event, especially the event of a mutual aid situation. where a transition, like on Highway 82, of a bus wreck or something like that, where the two agencies have to come together, the transitions will become seamless because the personnel will be trained to the same standards and to the same process. And to me, that is a huge plus. So, and I want to thank you very much for putting us on the agenda and hearing us out.
And Marky, the other thing, real quick, you know, when you spoke about Michigan, and that was one of the reports that I had pulled down, was Michigan Suburbs Alliance, that was looking at putting these together. And, you know, because of resources, limited resources.
Exactly.
And everybody's cutting budgets, and the fire district seemed to be one of those that got cut. Hey, we don't need as many folks. Let's, you know, we've got other needs. So we said, let's get this cart before the horse and just try to figure out how can we make us a better community and for what our resources are and what we need to do. Because as Marky knows, times are changing and there's a lot more that's getting piled on groups like this, you know, to take care of communities.
Right.
Bill, I guess for all of you, you're discussing this as involving two separate fire districts.
Correct.
Do any of you see this going beyond Snowmass and Basalt fire districts to include more?
There's always that possibility, but you take these steps very slowly. You know, we look at everybody's resources and what they have, and, you know, at one point, Basalt and Carbondale was looking at trying to do something, but things just didn't work. They weren't gelling quite well, so they sort of backed off of that. Yes, Bob, that may happen. As you've seen, you know, Poudre Valley maybe, and down in Newcastle, the Burning Mountain groups, it's now called, what, Colorado River Fire Authority. So you're seeing across the state and across the country a lot more of these things happening. And there's got to be a reason for it. And I have to just go back to my RAFTA days in this board. I was so pleased in seeing all the things that we were able to do together that, you know, it said there's got to be other things we can do together. And this, in my mind, is a very easy step to make because, you know, we all deal with fire and ambulances.
Just to clarify, as you, Scott, as you said, I think, the financial districts and the boards remain as they are, and for their individual oversight, and the monies that are collected go into the authority. Are the costs of the administrative staff that are shared by the two districts, are those costs shared equally with the two districts as well?
Yes and no. Right now, we've just hired or going through the process of hiring our third shared person. Basalt is a little bit heavier management-wise because we manage 60 volunteers. So as we build our administration, I think it will even out, but right now it doesn't.
So then, would you say they're currently shared on a proportional basis, or?
Yes, yes. And that's part of the things that we'll get into in the IGA when we do the fire authority. You know, because we got to figure out what we're going to do with the rolling stock. Basalt has 4 fire stations full of fire equipment. Snowmass had 1. So who's going to own that? Are we going to leave that with the financial districts, or are we going to make that as part of the authority? We don't know yet. And those are all the steps that Bob Cole is going to help us with.
So there's a contract in terms of management, basically.
Yes. Yeah, because it's an IGA now.
It's an IGA. So is there, you know, I don't like to use the word hire and fire, but both districts have to hire you, correct?
No, I'm an employee of Basalt.
Okay,
And then I'm
you're
under
contracted over
contract
here.
with IGA for Snowmass.
Okay,
And our HR person, for example, was a hire that we did in Snowmass that's a contract IGA from
okay. It's
Basalt.
contract, this
Yeah.
service and this
So,
program.
so
yeah.
when we work this all out and it all goes through the washing machine and we figure out all those small little details, then it'll be in the IGA. All of us will have to quit our jobs and be hired on as authority,
So
on
it's
the
like a
fire
holding,
authority.
it's like a holding company model.
Yeah. And that's everybody, you know, the South Metro, West Metro,
Yeah.
everybody in the metro area, that's how they've handled it. because we expect, this is a change of culture, a change of our identity, and there's some people that aren't going to want to do that. We understand that. So that's just one of the processes that we'll go through toward the end. But the other side of that is operationally, that's going to be the last thing we do, because we need to be good. We have to be trained together.
Yep.
All of our SOGs, we have to throw ladders and pull hose the same, because there's 15 ways to do everything.
One of the other thoughts that we're planning on is putting together a board, of course, for the authority board, which would be a number of members from the Snowmass district and a number of members from the Basalt district, so that we are able to sit there and discuss, pros and cons and things that we need to do and what does Snowmass need. One of the questions that Bernie Gower from Basalt asked us was, look, let's say you're going for a tax increase in one of the communities. What happens if it fails in one and passes in the other? Well, those are the kind of questions we're going to have to come to an understanding of how that does happen. Does one community at that point, rise and have a little better of something, and hopefully a few years later the other one gets together? But those are all very important questions that we need to ask and look at ourselves and try to say, how do we deal with some of these unintended consequences that may come down the pike?
And if I may add, this is one of the advantages of having Bob Cole taking us through this process, because he's been there, done that, and he's got the T-shirts to prove it. That a lot of these questions you're asking and the questions that we don't think of, he's already thought of. And as we go through them, he can give us his expertise on it, and then we can make a decision from that point of whatever the subject is or the issue is, that we can make an informed decision and go that direction.
So the important side of this, and I think for you as elected officials, is there's going to be equal number of board members from each side to represent each district. Bob assures us that it works, even numbers, so if it's a tie vote, it doesn't pass. And I guess there's some big districts, much bigger than us, probably has much more problems than we do, and it's working out. So we're kind of taking his experience and knowledge on that side. But I think it's important because, Bill's a taxpayer in Snowmass, and does he want to give up something? When it comes to those decisions, we have equal votes.
I think what people really want to know is their service to their home and the community is not changing.
I think it'll get a lot better.
Well, and see, that's the message.
Yeah.
But I could hear it now.
The biggest thing, and probably what keeps me up at night in Snowmass, is there's not enough backfill. So if the guys are busy, what happens when somebody has their heart attack? You don't want to wait for an ambulance from Aspen, and that's what you do right now.
Right.
So, in the future, that's the kind of thing that I want to try to solve. And as we get busier, certainly something that we need to identify as a problem.
Well, and to the mayor's point, I think public perception is a big part of it. And so when you say you are improving efficiencies, you're not doing it to save money. I mean, saving money is not a bad thing. I mean, I wouldn't put it out there as if, hey, we're not doing this to save money, because you are trying to reduce the amount of administrative staff that it takes to run the two departments. You're just allocating resources towards first responders. It sounds like.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that's what the public perception needs to be, and that's what they need to hear.
Very good.
Yeah, Clint?
We're just going to keep picking at the fruits on the tree.
I think it's going to be a number of years, before we get to an end goal. And then, of course, you always have to say, what happens at the end if something's not working? How do you, dissolve this thing?
Yeah.
Or what do you, divorce? But it has to be a reality check. You have to say, hey, if something's not working out, okay, we can move into the next phase, whatever it is. But we have to, ask those questions of our groups and of our attorneys and how those things happen. But we're all pretty optimistic. There are a few of us that are, definitely in the more pessimistic side of this equation.
Optimistic.
Less optimistic. Yeah, good. That's a good way to look at it. But it is something that we're recognizing we need to, for our future, and understand how we can take care of our communities in a better way than we may be today. Mr. Dresser has a.
So at the end of the day, both districts' boards will enter into an IGA creating this authority. And there will be, I assume, I mean, this is just by way of explanation, there will be exit or termination provisions in that IGA.
That's
and the respective constituencies will direct that board through elections how they feel about ultimately the authority.
Yes and no. Apparently, you know, what we've had the conversations with our attorneys that we don't have to go to an election for an authority.
No.
But
they will elect.
But we will still be going to communities
They
for
will
monies.
be, well, they'll be electing the directors, and if it
Yes,
changes,
that'll still-
they can
that'll-
change. Like, if they make a decision that
Yes.
I think one of-
terribly unpopular.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
that- yeah.
I think one of the things to bring up too is the fire authority. As we go along and we've decided this is not gonna work, it can be dissolved. If you go through a consolidation effort, that's a whole different issue and it's a lot harder to do.
Right.
To dissolve if you're gonna do that.
And this is exactly what Colorado River Fire Rescue did when they joined Rifle and Burning Mountains. They became an authority first to make sure that their relationship was going to work out, and also to bring both boards together. And the 10 board members decided to go with consolidating the two districts to become a district instead of an authority in the end. Now, that did not need to go to the public vote because they lowered the mill rate at 0.5% in Rifle to keep all of it the same, which meant that no public vote to make that one full district. I don't see that happening, at least in my tenure, because the assessed valuation in Snowmass is so much higher than in Basalt. We charge 8 mills in Basalt, and of course, people up here would scream if we went to 8 mills. And then on the other side of it, the flip side, we charge 6 mills in Snowmass, and a little bit more because of the capital bond that's passed, or the capital account that's passed. If Basalt went to 6 mills or 6 3/4, what Snowmass is right now, they'd be broke. Wouldn't be able to function. So there's no way to make the finance work right now with the assessed valuation differences.
And is Basalt a volunteer fire department?
It's a combination department. We have 2 paid staff and then daytime staff. And then at night, it's got 2 paramedics and then run with volunteers. So.
And there are 4, is that what you said, 4?
4 stations, yes.
And where are those 4?
Yeah, what?
Where are those located?
Thomasville, Old Snowmass, Basalt, and El Jabal.
Oh, okay, so Thomasville is you.
Yeah. That district is almost 500 square miles. And luckily, Snowmass is only 70, including the Old Snowmass component and Wildcat area.
So, a quick question, is everybody settled in down here at the rodeo grounds now? I mean, I've been meaning to stop by and see
They're
how.
getting by. They don't have as much personal space, personal time. Just giving an example, we make them take their bed sheets and everything home because there's not places for 30 firefighters to stash stuff in the firehouse.
So for apparatuses and stuff for this coming winter, how are we set?
Everything is here. Come winter, we'll take the wildland stuff and put it in the Basalt Station in Old Snowmass. But right now, the only thing that's gone is the tower truck, and we have that at Aspen Village.
Okay.
So everything else is here. We have to park 1 ambulance outside, but once winter starts, we'll put all 3 ambulances inside and get the brush truck down in Basalt.
And then when rodeo starts up here shortly, we'll move some.
What's the plan for that?
Equipment around to get it out.
What we said we would do is get out of the firehouse for the night. We're gonna help them with parking. They wanna feed us and have us entertained at the rodeo, so we're gonna stay there, but we're not gonna have to drive a fire truck out of the fire station.
Okay, good.
I don't know if it's gonna mean that we're gonna have the fire truck and the ambulance sitting at the transportation or we'll get it out of the way, but close enough.
Whoever knows, we're
Yeah.
working on that.
Yeah, I just,
Definitely get it out of the way so when a call does come, we don't have to move all the,
horses and trailers and, I know.
Yeah, but we want to work with the rodeo.
I know that's coming soon.
We're gonna park the ambulance at the rodeo like we always do, and we're not gonna charge them this year,
Okay.
as we have in the past, just to be good neighbors. I'm not gonna bring in extra guys just to run the rodeo. The shift will have to do that.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you all.
Thanks for that
Please,
update.
if you hear something out there, please,
Interesting.
let your board members that you've heard of know, chat with us, give us a call, email, you can contact us, and, this is going to be a long-term process.
Yeah, it would be long-term.
So the only other thing I wanted to kind of close and thank your town staff, everybody from Rhonda, Andy, John, Clint's been wonderful, great mentor to me through this process, and you guys have a great staff, and we've been lucky through our process here.
Well, good luck, everybody, and thank you
Good
very
luck,
much.
thank you.
Thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion for approval for the consent agenda.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in support?
Aye.
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 Aye. I think, what did I,
There was there was something in a minute, somewhere. Did you have anything, Bob?
yeah, I'm just trying to. No, actually, I guess it's in the minutes. I had a question, but let me look at this one more time.
Can you give the changes? Is it a question or just a change?
No, it was just a question. Oh, the question is, because I didn't see it on the agenda for Monday, next week, when are we getting a preview or update, or what you want to call it, for the EOTC meeting?
It's, I plugged it in Friday.
Oh, it's next week? Well, this kind of relates to what I saw in the minutes. The question that Madam Mayor raised about the electric buses and the access control plan from the previous meeting in May, is that on the agenda for the EOTC meeting, or does that need to be discussed with EOTC?
The access control plan, you mean the Upper Valley Mobility Study?
No, that's the electric bus issue.
The grant, the
That
electric
was the
bus.
grant for the electric buses.
Right, but
That
I don't
was-
understand the access control plan. I don't know what that is.
That's the banking, isn't it? Isn't that what you mean by,
Oh,
is that
no,
what you
no,
meant
no,
by
no,
the
no.
access control
No,
plan?
no, the ACP is contained within the RAFTA board, the upper mobility study.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was talking about, referring
Relative to the buses.
relative to the buses and the whole grant.
So the RAFTA board at their next meeting, I think at your next meeting, you're
Yes.
gonna be looking at, the RAFTA board's gonna be looking, and I don't know my numbers exactly, but they're gonna be looking to authorize a grant application to apply for dollars to pay for, I think, 8 electric buses.
That's correct, 4 for Aspen and 4 for
They're asking,
Yellowstone.
the Aspen, as I understand it, the city of Aspen's committed $1 million to that project, and RAFTA will be asking the EOTC for, I believe, $500,000 for those 8 buses. And so the question before at the EOTC is gonna be, EOTCs for regional transit, how are these electric buses gonna serve regionally? And are they gonna serve between the village and city of Aspen? That might meet the need, but if all of it's gonna happen in Aspen, then I think the question we need to be asking is, how does that fit our regional requirements for
Right.
EOTC?
Well, I think the question is, what's the result of the upper mobility
That's exactly
study?
right.
That's the question, before
that-
we even get into, do we buy electric buses or not?
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be presented, as I understand it, the agenda for the EOTC won't be finalized till later this week.
Yeah.
But as I understand it, it's 2 requests. They wanna go electric buses no matter what. There's a request from RAFTA, from what I understand, gonna be, we wanna test drive 8 electric buses, and so that'll be one decision. But the update for the Upper Valley Mobility Study that's gonna be the prime discussion at RAFTA. What's it say? What's it look like? There was an open house last Thursday, the results of the open house, and then, what basically the recommendations coming from Parsons on what they're gonna say, how they're gonna,
Well, see, the thing also with this grant, there's a deadline on the grant, and it's prior to the upper mobility studying being done.
Right.
That's a timing issue as well.
So does one have to commit for these buses before, or can one apply for the grant and,
withdraw?
and then withdraw at some point?
Oh, I'm sure. You can,
I'm sure you can always opt out of grant, but chances of that will probably be
I think,
slim to none.
yeah, I think the grant discussion for us is gonna be how do our dollars, the EOTCs, our dollars.
A lot of money.
How do they serve the regional component? And from what I've heard is they've talked about putting half the buses on the Snowmass to Aspen route and the other half just serving in Aspen. We'll have to determine, we'll know more details by next Monday, but we'll have to determine at that point, does that meet the criteria? Are we comfortable with that? The Upper Valley Mobility Study, I don't know if you were able to go to the open house and see some of the recommendations.
I wasn't here.
But fundamentally, they're talking about a stepped-in approach. Again, we'll have more info next week, but it's sticking with the BRT system instead of light rail, just due to cost considerations, and then shifting the BRT to more electric buses because they're perceived to be far less intrusive.
And what about the entrance to Aspen?
It's recommended. It's, if I remember right, $102 million for the bridge.
Right, 102 or 107.
Yeah,
It's up there,
it's
so-
definitely part of the recommendation.
But the vote will go to the citizens of Aspen, correct?
Well, I'm speaking a little out of school on this one. There doesn't have to be a vote. The record of decision is there.
Right.
It's a political decision at this point that the city can make. And like I said, I'm speaking out of school on it. But you'll get the question that Councilor Circus brought up. We do know that this will be the primary area of discussion at the next EOTC meeting. We know it's the biggest issue before the board.
Okay, that's all, that's primarily what I was trying to get to.
Okay, next item on our agenda, public hearings. We do not have any this evening. Nothing on the policy legislative public hearing. Administrative reports. This is resolution number 28, series of 2017. A resolution appointing members to the Parks, Open Space, Trails, and Rec Advisory Board, the poster board. Hello there, Andy.
Hello. How are you guys?
We're
Hi,
good.
Andy.
I know that Rhonda's name is on the top of this, but I'll kind of speak to the formation of the advisory board. As you remember back when we were going over poster planning, one of the key first steps was to designate a advisory board, and we've been advertising for a little while now, and we have 8 people that are interested in serving, and it should, no women. I hear that was the one issue that was brought up, and it would be great. There's, as you kind of laid the structure, that there is room for more people to join this board as we move along. But I think now with the solid 8, I think this would be a good time to move forward and at least start meeting and get some of these ideas rolling that were pointed out through the poster plan.
Well, Andy, personally, I would like to at least see the people who are interested in becoming the first poster board group. Some of the applications were a lot more informational than others, and I think that from my perspective, I have questions for, I would say, most of them, but I think it would be helpful, certainly to me, if we were able to see them and talk to them, and they could tell us a little bit about why they want to be on the poster plan. One thought that also occurred to me earlier tonight was, can we get any high school? Can we get a high school student who hangs, who could easily use many of the facilities? And I would see it as I would see it as working to our advantage in many ways. We would get input from another demographic, and maybe as importantly, we would have the opportunity to be kind of mentoring a younger person in how town government works. Just like, I mean, essentially like what these third graders were doing, right? We through the, and you really through the
Their whole
poster
council,
board.
let's get their whole council back.
And you know, you through the poster board would have that kind of opportunity too. But I also think there's value in getting input from, you know, someone who's a different demographic.
And I might say, so I mean, we've gone through all our normal search processes for board members, newspaper, Facebook, electronic pushes, everything. The best way to recruit members to this board is when you five say, "Would you please serve?" That is by far the most effective way to get somebody on the board. And so, you know, when we ask, they say, yeah, we don't, you know, we don't get a lot of response. But when, as an elected official, you say, "I'd really like your 10 cents on the board," we find that really does bump it up. And so if there is a high school kid that you want, we can get them, we can ask. But these are folks that are advisory to you all. And so anybody you've got, you want to push, we just got to get the application, and try and get it before you so that we can get the boards up and going. But that's why we brought it before you. We weren't sure if you wanted to get it up and going fast and get it rolling and keep adding, or if you wanted to go through a more in-depth process. And, you know, sometimes, in all honesty, we thought this would be the easiest for the applicants to get them up and going instead of having to ask for additional meeting. But if you wanted the opportunity to talk to them, we can set those up as well to come and, you know, meet you and have that discussion.
I looked at all of them, I was fine with.
Andy, do you know all these people?
Obviously, several of them served on the steering committee for the poster board.
Right.
I've at least talked to the rest of them. Had face-to-face with Juan just the other day. He just wanted to know, you know, what it was about, and, you know, kind of gave the, I gave him the overview of poster and how we got to this point, and good conversation. And he's new to the community, super excited about being involved, and he thought this would be a great way to get started.
Were you able to get an idea from each of them of, you know, why they wanted to be on the committee, and kind of maybe what some of their views or philosophies were in relationship to, you know, Parks Rec?
You know,
application.
Obviously, the people that were on the steering committee, I knew what their
obviously, yes,
what their focus was. So that was good, and I'm glad that they, you know, continued, you know, to want to be involved in this, because they have a specific and not the same interest. You know, there's some trail interest, but there's also recreation program interest and outdoor recreation interest. I know that one of them, there was the equestrian side and the interest of that. So, you know, right now it's forming really well with focuses not solely on trails or solely on outdoor recreation, but, you know, it's a good variety of it.
And that probably makes it a little more challenging, right? Because it seems like some of the people that served on the Trails Committee, I don't see their name on that list.
Right. Yeah, I did reach out to them, and I didn't hear back either. I actually just saw Jeff this morning at the Recreation Center, and we had a little conversation about that. But that's, you know, hopefully when issues come up, we'll be able to rely on them as well. So I think moving forward with the people that are interested in the poster board now that's where we're looking at.
Do you all want to have them come here to get interviewed, or are you fine?
Well, I personally, I just also wanted to say, can we leave the door open for additional members? I'd love to see a couple females, and I think Councilman Circus had a very good point of getting some of the younger people involved, and especially with school being out this week, and maybe something like that can happen. But as long as the door could stay open for more members to be on, I'm okay with everybody. I don't know if we need, I personally don't need to come and see everybody individually. I think it's great that they've all volunteered their services to you, Andy, and they know what's involved here.
Their services to you, Councilor Good. I mean, we got to remember, it's like They're there to advise you all. We will certainly staff it, we will ask questions, we will involve them, but fundamentally, their recommendations coming to you guys.
Exactly.
I guess I'm feeling, Andy, since you've had at least some conversation back and forth, and you're comfortable that you're not going, that you're gonna have a body that can work together, or, you know, and have discourse together, then that's fine. And I'm okay with just going ahead and getting this thing going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know at least half the people on the list, and I think they're all great additions, so I don't feel like I need to meet the other half here.
You know, having served on several boards myself through the years in the town, I know how difficult it is to get people to volunteer for these boards, and the fact that you already have 8 is outstanding. Of course, you've got the fun board to begin with, Andy. We all know that.
Let's hope so.
You know,
I think you ought to build a fun house.
I think the fun house was a great idea, and I you know, Mr. Dresser and I were talking that I liked it because that whole town was slanted towards recreation. You know, there was more than that.
We could just change the name on the rec center, you know.
I was gonna say, I think you already built a fun house.
The fun house.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 8 names for the poster board.
And if you just adopt resolution.
Resolution.
If you make a motion to adopt
Okay,
resolution 28.
We'll adopt resolution 28.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Bill, all support?
Aye.
Pose same sign. Okay, moving now into town council reports and actions. Any reports? Bill, let's start with you.
Thank you, Andy.
I'd just like to say the new bridge on the Tom Blake Trail is awesome. I'm sure that all worked out with our neighbors up there. But the old bridge was coming undone, and the path was, so, welcome addition to our village.
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
I have a core meeting coming up with the same day as the EOTC meeting, but I also have a question, Clint. I noticed that the footer for the sculpture was poured.
Yes.
And the gentleman that was going to donate it was a little surprised himself because he wasn't asked.
We coordinated with them, and from what I understand, the pour was far more complicated than we thought it was going to be originally. We had to have the structural engineer, and now again, I'm really out of school. It was there's a terminology when we have to bore down and put concrete in versus a pour versus forming it. And so it was not a formed pour, it was a bored pour. And so in order to coordinate, we asked the person if he wanted to contribute the dollars, and there was not a lot of enthusiasm.
Well, I was under the impression that that gentleman said he was a little surprised that it happened without anybody asking him.
I am confident that
I'll find out.
That he was coordinated with before and said, hey, if there's an opportunity, we didn't want to say, we did say, we can't take the trucks like we anticipated because of the type of pour. And we didn't want to double ask and say.
Then what happened to the trees that were in there?
They were transplanted right in front of town hall.
Okay, great.
If the gentleman still wants to contribute, we thought we'd made it, we'll be happy to take the money, but we didn't want to.
I'll make sure he's
happy.
He's aware of it.
We're very happy to take the.
We're gonna turn him upside down tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
I mean, I think I put in one of my Friday memos too. I mean, it was far more beefy of a foundation than the artist originally anticipated.
So was it more than the 12 grand that was anticipated?
Well, we haven't got the final bill, but it will be. We'll find the dollars. But yes.
That's all I have.
Okay. If we don't, John, you're back. Any updates? No. Clint?
From London?
Yeah, from London.
Oh, town cleanup day was awesome. Biggest turnout ever. That was,
It looked
it was great, yeah.
I would have been there, but I couldn't. I was still kind
I'm
of
glad to see it went well. I drove by after work and everybody was still partying at the Bayou, so it looks like everybody had a pretty good time and,
Rhonda and Andy hit this one out of the park, so thanks.
good job.
And also, the town staff is making regular routes through the numbered lots, because those are always such a mess, and they were so much cleaner this year than they have been in the past.
Wonderful.
That was great.
Good stuff. Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We hadn't asked for it, but guess what? Thank you, Tom, for offering it.
I was told I can make that motion anytime I want.
Yeah, absolutely. Bob, did you second?
I second, yeah.
All in support, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You
We're
can make
adjourned.
any motion you want at any time.
Thanks, Andy.
I think you
Once-
should put
once
that,
you're
one of the third
recognized by
graders
the
on this.
chair.
Yeah, really.